What's up, everybody? That time of the day, that time of the week, that time of the month.
Once again,
you're listening to The Good,
the band,
The Ugly. I'm Big Papa.
and I'm just Jeff.
And just Jeff. That joke's getting really old.
It is
right?
now.
We gotta figure out something else.
We'll figure it out.
Holy shit. Dude, how you been?
Good, man. You?
It's been a couple weeks.
It has.
I've been traveling like a
I know
madman.
you have.
Out in California.
Yep.
For the NAMM show. Nam. Did a couple days down in New York. Had some stuff going on there for the show down there. So it was it's good to be back here in the studio.
Yeah.
For all the nice people.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Aren't they lovely?
Yeah. I do have to say a couple things.
Here it comes.
Jeff Young.
Yes.
Jeff Young, the former Megadeth guy, has a new album coming out.
Okay.
And it should be out any day now. So keep an eye out for that if you guys could, because
friend of the show, friend of
the show. Jeff and I had a long talk the other day, and he is trying to come here to Syracuse and play a couple shows. So we're going to try to bring him out.
Yep.
Had a couple chats with Jeff Martin.
Oh.
Out in California. And he's a trip and a half. We're going to try to bring him out with the new
Racer X.
Racer Extreme or whatever.
Yeah.
Racer X's new album is awesome. I have a copy of it in my bag, and it was phenomenal. But met a lot of great people out at NAMM, and saw a lot of friends of the show. I have to bring
including
this up.
you better.
So 2 years ago, Rick Latham was on the show, and I kept busting his chops saying, I want a drum head like we got from Dave Northrup. So Rick could not come up with a drum head at NAMM. A billion drum heads, but whatever.
Right.
So I get there, I walk into the show, and he's standing there, and he goes, I got something for you, and it's not a drum head.
Okay.
So he represents Istanbul cymbals made in Turkey, and he gave one for the show and signed it.
Signed, sealed, and delivered.
And I don't know if anybody knows this, but Rick is the guy that writes the books that teaches the drummers.
Yes.
Okay. He wrote the books I learned how to play drums on when I was in high school. They're still in publication. It's the longest running music educational book.
Yeah.
In print still. So shout out to Rick. Thank you so much for the cymbal. Thanks for your hospitality when we were out there.
Thank you, sir.
And just everybody else we ran into. What a great show. But bringing it back to Syracuse, half the reason we do what we do is to bring light to the people that don't realize who bends over backwards and doesn't just collect a paycheck. Our guest today does more than just play. He's a phenomenal musician, writes, plays, puts together shows, gets the public involved. He's also a writer for the table hopping.
I didn't even think that was still around.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Honestly, I mean.
Yeah, he wrote a great article for Cat. And
I've started picking it up again.
Yeah, it's awesome. So without any further ado, I want to bring Chuck Schiele to the microphone.
There he is.
Howdy.
See, I didn't wear my cool hat.
No, you're right.
I should have put on my funky.
Do you have one?
I do. I have a.
We got time.
What brand? Frickin' brand is that? Oh, Bailey. I've got a Bailey. So it's. I just love the hat. So you could squish it, put it in your suitcase, you pull it out, and boom, looks great.
I heard you talking about Rick Latham. I know Rick from the NAMM show as well.
Oh, what a great
guy,
human being.
Yeah.
In fact, when I was working at Making Music magazine and the International Musician magazine, which is a union magazine, that's how I became acquainted with Rick. Just hanging out in Drum World over there.
Yep.
Looking for people to have articles for us. So I did an interview with him, much like we're doing, for that magazine probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, no
Great
kidding.
guy.
Cool.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, if you meet Rick and you get to know him, and he sends me emails from time to time, but he's like, when you coming down for a barbecue?
Right.
I'll roast a pig and we'll pull out some bourbon. You know, I mean, he's just really just a great freaking guy. And
that's a pretty good offer.
Yeah, no kidding, man. You know,
you want to go?
Yeah, let's. I'd like to take a whole bus. We'll show up, just come rolling in. Be like, hey, you said to come.
You said.
You played in the Edgar Winter Group, I think.
Yeah, right.
I'll go.
Well, you know, it was funny because when we were there, Kat went with me, and we're talking, and I'm telling about some of the things he did, and then he said, well, you know, and then I played for, you know, like 17 years with Edgar Winter, and all of a sudden she's like, you didn't tell me that. I was like, oh, now you're impressed?
Right.
He's got a fun resume. No, he doesn't need that, though, to watch him play. It's like, wow.
Oh,
he's got 10 arms or something.
He does.
So,
yes.
He has like
he's funky boy.
Like six limb independence. And
you're right.
I don't know how he does it, but he's just phenomenal.
Awesome.
So,
well, hi Rick. If you see this, hello from the Peanut Gallery.
There you go.
We're gonna make sure he sees it now.
Oh, we are. I'm gonna send him a link.
Yep.
See, we talked about you, and thank you for the symbol.
Yes.
I do want to say this though, Chuck. What you do for Syracuse, bringing the shows that you put together, and I've a lot of it lately I've seen out at the Maplewood, and I know you do them all over, but I just think it's a great addition to our community here.
Thank you for saying so. That's one of the nicest things I've heard. Thank you.
You know, it's because it's not just there's a lot of guys that get up there and they'll play, and it's just about them. You know, and let's face it, we're you know, Jeff and I are both musicians, and there's a sense of narcissism for every musician that's out there. We do it for something. We do it for our own self-esteem. Sometimes we do it for some people do it strictly for the money. Some people do it just because they're passionate about the music. Mm-hmm. But I've seen you help so many artists. You have people get up there to play with you that might not have had that avenue if you didn't help. And then between that and the articles that you write for everybody, and I can't wait to see what you write about us when we have our article. Where's that symbol?
Right there.
But it's just really it helps. It helps the community see these artists that may not had the chance to get that exposure anywhere else, but with what you're doing. So again, thank you so much for what you do.
Yep.
You know?
You're welcome. Thanks for reading. Thanks for noticing, and thanks for having me on. It's a delight and a privilege to be here. So thank you.
For those who don't know who Chuck Schiele is,
correct.
Tell us how you got involved with music. Did you grow up in a musical household? You know, what brought you to where you're at today?
Well, actually, did I grow up in a musical household? Not really. Of all things. So real quick, I was born in California. My dad is a musician, and on my dad's side of the family, his mom was also a great musician. She had a radio show in San Francisco for about 20 years, and she was a Hammond B3 player. She was freaking great and famous, you know. And so my dad was a jazz player in that area. He started out playing gigs with Al Jarreau.
Oh, wow.
And,
okay.
Before Al was a big deal, but nonetheless, like, he was on the right path. And then he went to San Diego. In the meantime, I went from California to New York. My parents split. So I wasn't involved with my dad in that way, and not music. So I moved to Lincourt, Syracuse, New York. And so I was more about baseball.
God, I'm sorry.
I wanted to play drums. I wanted to play drums a lot. And every time I'd go to the band teacher, I'd say, Mr. D, can I play drums? And he'd say, we got too many drummers, Chucky. Here, let's have a French horn. And I was like, French horn? Girls already don't like me. Come on. So I tried for a while, and I gave it back. So then he gave me a trombone. Then I got a tuba. And after that, I was like, screw it. I'm going back to baseball. So I played baseball And then when I got out of school here, after 2 days after high school, I went to California to take an offer up from my dad to go to art school in San Diego. So I did. I got a really nice situation going to art school, and that's what my degree was. I wanted to be an artist. It's not like I wanted to be. I was already drawing pictures on the womb, from that far back. So anyway, seeing my dad play music as a little boy was in the 60s. And that I remember that really affecting me, because I remember going to San Diego to see him when I was about 6 years old. And it was a place called the Hotel del Coronado. Fabulous, elegant place in the 60s when everybody's still dressed up.
Yeah.
And he was in this jazz band, and everybody was classy, and the ladies had those silk gloves that came up to their ear, and they called her darling and shit.
Yeah.
And so it was like that. And when you're 6, your dad is the same. He's a rock star. Anything you see on TV, what I see here, it's all the same. So I remember that, thinking that was really cool. Anyway, so by the time I got back to San Diego to go to college in about 79, he had a guitar in the corner, and by then he was working the San Diego jazz scene. And I said, will you teach me how to play that guitar? And he's like, you want to play that? And I said, real bad. He said, just go get it. And so I had my first lesson right there. He taught me solfege and things like that on a napkin, and explained theory and how it works. And I got a couple of good books to get started. One that was about theory, and one was the Beatle book where it showed you where to put all your fingers. So that's how I learned how to play A minor 7 and stuff like that.
Sure, right.
And being a person at the same time, I wrote music since I was 5. I actually wrote a song for a girl in kindergarten when I was 5, I totally ripped off the theme from the Mod Squad, but it was my way of getting into the pool, so to speak. And I've always written music. So that's how I got into music. And so then when I got back out to California, with the influence of being around my dad and his jazz buddies, and it's just very thick with music, I had friends who I could write. I could write before I could play. So I just got lucky enough to find some friends who could play and had the patience with me, because they liked my songs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was the guy who would always make the bar come out to 5 and piss everybody off. But I eventually got the hang of it, and I loved it. And I've just played every day, all day long, ever since. And I'm still learning, So through the years, I went through basically 4 or 5 bands. I was always interested in being in bands with people that I liked, because you spend a lot of time together, and everybody's cool when everything's going right. Everybody's all, patting each other on the back. But when you hit a ditch as a group of people, it doesn't matter if you're a baseball team or a band, that's where things can get squirrely, and you can find out who's really in or not. So I was always careful about with whom I align. Because it's a waste of time to go for a year and discover that, like, this is actually something I don't want to do, and you have to just go back to the drawing board.
Right.
So I always lucky had to have an organized mind that way, to put the patience in front. And so as a result, I have a world of great friends, a wealth of great friends in and through the path of music. Like, I'm still friends with everybody I've known. I don't really have any bad blood with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
A few rough patches with a couple of people, but for the most part, 35 plus years later in professional music, we're cool.
Right.
And anyway, so that's what I've been doing. I've been in hard rock groups. I've been in pop groups. I've been in Americana group. I play acoustic. I play solo. I travel with it. My songs have been in Germany, Japan, and France, and hit the road. I've had a lot of fun. And then I've also just liked being on the business side of it, organized side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then So that's how I got into the part of being a music player. I just really interested in writing. And so I was a San Diego musician for a long time, 30 years,
Sure.
31 years.
Okay.
And out there, there's plenty of covers and everything, but the market for original writing groups, there's more room for it and a lot of venues for it, especially in the solo or duo, trio, unplugged kind of way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I could play coffee houses like 100 times a year as part of my route through the Southern California region, along with the bars and clubs and festivals all year long and just all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so I cut my teeth out there and played a lot with that. Mostly showcases and festivals and things like that. It wasn't until I got to Syracuse about 15 years ago that I started to be more into the cover thing, just to get work and get in. You know, you move to a whole new city, you have to audition all over again, you know. And so I did. I didn't want to toot my horn. I just wanted to get out and play and get in from the right way.
That's really the unfortunate part, really, is that Syracuse used to be, about originals and whatnot. Now it's more covers.
Oh, definitely.
Well, I would like to qualify what I said, actually, because after a while I realized, what the fuck? Can I say that on your show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, God, yeah.
Let her rip.
Sure, I can.
Yeah.
So I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, I what am I doing? You know, it's my life. I write music, and I would rather die on the sword of doing what I do rather than trying to do something I'm not really meant to do. Like, I can do the covers. I have all the skills to do that, but my love for music is in a different place. So other guys do that better than me, you know, but original, I feel very comfortable in that court. So one day I just started the Quatro and just said, all right, I also like to do things that are unconventional. I don't want to have a band that has anything like anybody else, and I don't care what it is. And so by way of serendipity, I was already working with John Dancks on bass.
Mm-hmm.
I was acquainting with George Newton, who, in my opinion, is the best listening musician around, period. Right. Wonderful listener. And then an art student of mine was now an adult, thriving in the adult world, became my cellist, and eventually our other lead singer. Mm-hmm. So we're me on acoustic guitar as a songwriter, supported with pedal steel, jazz bass, and like a classical pit cello.
Wow.
So it's sort of like a weird,
okay,
messed up, what do you call it, chamber orchestra.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it works, it works.
Yeah, if it works, great.
Doesn't matter.
It works great, man. We call it the meat grinder. Inside the band, we call ourselves a meat grinder.
There you go.
We can put Sinatra through it. We could put Ozzy through it. We could put Steve Winwood through it. Mm-hmm. We could put my originals, George originals. I can sing, she can sing.
Yeah.
And when it comes out the other side, it's Quatro, and it works. So when we discovered that, we realized, geez, we can play jazz, we can play anything, and it comes out like this. And so we have the most unexpectedly familiar set there is, and it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Anyway, people even dance to it because we still imply the kit, even though we don't have one. We've had drummers sit in trying to put a drummer in it, and the drummers all say, don't do it. You don't need me to be here.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like, yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Like, it's so unimpulsive of me being a rock and roller my whole life, you know?
Sure.
And so anyway, but that was a lot of fun. And so I'm here to say that original music is strong, at least coming from our camp, you know, and meaning not my band, but to include my band, the network of people I hang out with. You know, there's a lot of it around here, and there's a lot of it that's good too.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. For years, my idea of who's doing well and who's playing around here always went towards some of the bigger venues that would draw 200, 300, 400, 500 people. the intimate settings,
I
like
think are
the
better.
Maplewood,
Yeah.
like Shifties, like some of the places around town, you get a sense of that community more than
Yes.
just people looking to have familiar background noise. And I think the familiar background noise are not traditional music lovers.
No.
They just want to be entertained with everything that brings them back to that day in
Yes.
1985, 1984, 1979.
Whatever, yeah.
I agree.
Those are those people.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. That's
Nothing
a
wrong
great
with it.
audience to have.
Right.
They're emotionalists.
Yes.
They're not.
Yeah, I look at it like there's two kinds. You have the people who are the memory laners. That's
Yeah.
what you're talking
Yes.
about.
Yep.
They remember, like, I remember this song, and Joey kissed me for the first time behind the
Yep.
football field. We've been together ever since. It's our song.
Exactly.
And, and it's Journey, and it's all great and everything. And you know what? I'm one of them. Like,
Yeah.
I hear songs, and I just love it for
Yeah.
that. And it's olfactory.
Total-
You can all of a sudden
yeah.
remember an old friend that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I have one foot in a pioneering way where I'm really more like Lewis and Clark or some kind of astronaut in
Yeah.
music. Where
There you go.
let's go out of bounds a little bit and let's play something we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that? Let's go mess around, and
Right,
see where
because-
we can get lost or get in trouble or, I still have that,
To me, every cover band that comes around, they want to be something different. And actually, they're all the same.
Now don't go biting your nose to spite your face there, Mouthy, because
listen.
you're in a cover band too. So I don't want to hear that shit.
Unfortunately,
No,
yeah.
I mean they're both
But-
necessary mediums.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's sometimes where I want to go hear a good cover band, and because it's just great.
Yeah.
I mean, do I need to go see all of them every night? No,
No.
not
No.
really.
No.
But I don't really always have time to do that anyway, because just trying to do your own music is like sometimes you can't even find time to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
So
funny.
it's-
We had. You must know Jeff Tripoli.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's another perfect example of
for sure.
someone that's
Yeah.
completely outside the normal box.
Mm-hmm.
If Jeff was positioned even near the box,
He'd be playing
he'd be
it.
playing it with a spatula
Yes.
and an egg timer or
Yep.
something.
Yeah.
Because the
that
music he
right?
made, he makes incredible music that has
He told us-
nothing
I might
traditional.
want to
No.
talk to him.
He told us, and if I remember this correctly, he told us if he thinks he can make a sound out of it, he will hit it.
Oh yeah, and I've listened to his albums.
Okay.
His albums,
Yeah.
you have to go into it
With an open
with a
mind.
completely open mind,
Mhm.
because if you don't, you're going to be like,
What is
what?
it? What
This
am I
is
listening
this is like Alice in Wonderland meets
Yeah.
the tunnel machine from Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
And it's just it takes you on the most wild.
It does.
It's like we're past the bong.
Yep.
I gotta get stoned
Yeah,
I can't listen to this.
Yeah.
Hey, well, the bottom line of all of it, doesn't matter if you're like the Ramones playing simple nursery rhymes through Marshalls with attitude, or if you're Steely Dan, just the baddest asses around. The main thing is it still has to have the common denominator and be divided by fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
You still have to have fun. It has to be entertaining. So I think egg beaters are totally cool in
Yeah.
rock and roll, and they do have their place.
Yes.
I mean,
From the
I
heart
wanna
to the
see it.
heart.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw this group called the Wild Colonials. They were on a short rise for a while. I don't think they ever managed to go more than 5 or 6 years, but I went and saw them, and they were great. And they come out and they're dressed like colonials, like
Oh.
George Washington.
Oh.
and
Okay.
Quincy Adams and guys like that.
Wow.
Little wigs and shit. It was great.
That's wow. Okay.
This guy comes out with a Sparklets water bottle. It just lays down some of the best groove ever on this thing, and has the whole place going for a good 5 or 6 minutes before the band finally came in, and then he tossed it and jumped on the kit and went to town.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
It was cool, and that's what was cool about it. It was fun,
Yeah.
Like, okay, what? There's instant sense of mystery right off the bat. Like, what are they going to do now? Anyway, so I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like beaters.
Yeah.
I like people that are being more conscientious about putting on a show
Mm-hmm.
rather than just a performance. And I'm guilty of just doing the performance. You know?
Yeah, I think we all are.
But you've got guys that have really been thinking out of the box. I think guys like Johnny Peluso doing the whole disco revival thing.
Yeah.
Johnny makes you feel like you just stepped back into the disco era.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the drinks, the outfits of the people working at the club he's putting this event on.
Mm-hmm.
Everything screams going back in time rather than just getting up and playing a bunch of cover tunes.
You know, I think it's good because, you know, it's a sophisticated market now, and there's a lot of things you can do with your money. You don't even have to leave the house to be entertained and spend your money.
Right.
You know, there's all these things you can do, and so I think. Not to mention how many billion people are on the planet now with access to the internet that share their song, and you can just join in like we're doing here, and so on. So I think in that kind of world, and we have people like Spielberg out there and Pink Floyd with their shows, like how the hell do you compete when you're in a bar with a little blinking Miller sign that's backwards hanging on the window? You know? Pinball machine and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I'm with those guys who do the set. In fact, I do it too. You know, I started doing it for Quatro, being a unique group. I thought, let's give ourselves a chance to distinguish ourselves from the din of everything else. Like it's kind of a classy sound anyway. So like, let's support that visually. So we actually have 2 or 3 sets now in my garage that we interchange for, you know, the more ticketed theater type shows.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we think that if you're going to come out and spend the money to come and see us, we owe it to you to, you know, do our best, even if it's a Spanky and our gang budget, you know.
Yeah, right.
but it worked out so well. Speaking of the Maplewood, that led to doing events there. So in San Diego, I used to do a lot of events. When I moved to Syracuse, I thought about doing events. I've been here for about 15 years now. And it wasn't until just last year that I wanted to try it when I saw the Maplewood and the shape of what that place is and what it offers. And the fact that I got on and had a shared vision with Frank Bell at the Maplewood. Then for the first time, I said, I think I'd like to pursue this again. Up until that moment, I did not see the factors that I want in order to put my butt on the line to do it, because you take a financial risk when you do that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Not to mention you bust your ass. And so if I'm going to do it and make it worthwhile, I want everything to be right there. So that worked out. So
Are you talking about the pig roast?
We had a pig roast. We did the cash only show, which was like I built Folsom Prison.
That's
so
awesome.
You got to it wasn't just the stage that was a prison. The whole place was kind of like a prison. So you got to party in prison, drinking bourbon with the bourbon sponsor. One of Johnny Cash's guys was on the show for one of his touring guitar players.
Right.
That's cool.
And you got to, with everybody's, you know, Syracuse's best country and rock kind of befitting acts, you know. So that to me, I think it's important. Let it be more of an immersive experience is the way I look at it. I mean, I got enough gigs where I'm just going to set up in the corner by the window and play what the room wants to hear.
Yeah.
And I have fun with those too. But since we're going to die someday, I'd rather like just kind of also have some shows where we go for it a little bit and just see how far we can push it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I think, Frank, you know, for people who aren't from around here and are from other places, I think every town has that one venue that helps the local artist, embraces what you want to do, puts himself out there, because it's his business and livelihood too.
Sure.
And luckily, the place we're talking about here locally in Central New York in Syracuse, Frank Bell ran this place called the Maplewood, and hotel bar.
Yes.
You know, did he have a built-in crowd? Sometimes.
Maybe, yeah.
But he brought a lot of people coming back and back and back.
Yes.
And it overshadowed the fact that it was a hotel, because he did so many things outside the box that the typical bar owner and we know we've all played
absolutely.
those places
Yeah.
where the bar owner's like, you didn't have enough people come through the door. They don't look at the big picture. They look at what was the
Right.
cover charge. Whatever.
Yeah.
You know what he did? He listened to the musicians and he
Yep.
listened to the customers.
Yeah.
Now, I've been in this business a long time, and that's a rare thing to be able to say that. And I'm trying to figure out if I've ever said that before, but he did. He was almost like concierge. It
Yeah.
was his attitude towards it. Not to mention he's a real chef, so his food is a blast.
Oh, it's incredible.
I mean, you've been playing music your whole life too, right? So like, you know what it's like to have food on the road and food in pubs and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's always this, you know, like you can hurt yourself eating that all the time. So to have a real decent meal was a treat. But anyway, from the music perspective, he's incredibly supportive. And I remember it pretty much from the get-go with him. And it started out with that Tuesday night open mic, which is pretty big deal here in Syracuse.
Yeah.
That already had momentum coming into that venue. And but from there, he said, okay, well, then let's add this. And then he tried to do bands on the weekend. And then day by day, he added everything in. So almost every day that they were open, they had something. So between patience and tenacity and great listening, he built it up to where it became kind of to me, I hung out there and did a lot of work in that room, in those rooms. So I'm biased, but it looked like it was always pretty busy and pretty hot spot.
Well, I think everybody that was there for the same reason. The artists were there to entertain without worried about, with an open mic night. Again, people who are listening to the show that don't understand, you don't get paid.
No.
You're there for the love of it. You're there for a little bit of exposure. Maybe the bar owner says, "Hey, you guys are pretty good. I will book you."
The fellowship,
but the brotherhood and fellowship of local musicians, it's some of the best in town. You will find.
It's amazing. Like I've been working in music professionally for like 3 decades.
Yeah.
I used to go to open mics when I was trying to break in and, become known or like try out a new song or just learn to get over the jitters. And back in those days, and just kind of be brave and try to make myself better, knowing I have a ways to go.
Right.
So I don't need to go to one of those to get anywhere.
Right.
But I went down because I was invited once, and that was when it was still at the other venue, the Limp Lizard. Like in their second week, I went there, and I actually met a future musical partner, Richie Melito, on that night. So I kept going because of that. And but I watched the whole thing bloom.
Yeah.
And I call it the fellowship, and I'm the one who named us Woodies when it came over to the Maplewood. It's like, yeah, you're all a bunch of Woodies,
Yeah.
Like I'm a Woody, you're a Woody. Wouldn't you like to be a Woody too?
Yeah.
We got a song that goes like that. I wrote him an anthem. So that's like, who writes an anthem for a Tuesday night, weekly, 8-year bunch of people who just love music? And so I walked in there with my lady. We didn't know. We knew who invited us. We made a friend on the first night, Richie Melito. And then I've made a friend every single time I've gone there ever since then. And now I know everybody who goes. And it's all these great people who are A-list, were A-list. Maybe they're not A-list. Maybe some of them are beginner. But it's cool because everybody just goes because it's their night off or they're a music lover and they just want to hang out. And, like for me, I get to see my bros who are working. We're all working on Saturdays, so you never get to see each other. So you can do that. And then you get tapped on the shoulder. You got to go play 2 songs. You play some songs you don't know.
Yeah.
You jump through your ass and you go for it, get out on the edge a little bit.
Yeah.
It's fun.
We've had a lot of the guys from that I met, I've known throughout the years, but
right.
The Steve Shadds, the Dave Porters of the world, guys like Edgar, Richie, just classy men.
Yes.
and women that entertain, and they're taking up time on their during the week,
Right.
just to be there, And when I get a call from Edgar or Richie saying, "Hey, what do you want to sing this week when you come out?" I'm like, "I don't know if I'm coming out." "Oh, you got to come out." "Okay." "What do you want us to learn?"
Gotta come out.
"What do you mean? What do you want us to learn?" If I'll sing whatever you already know. Richie's like, "We'll learn whatever you want. Just tell us what to learn and we'll learn it." I mean, for open mic guys to just call you out of the clear blue and say, "We're going to learn a song so that you can get up and sing one or two songs and jam with somebody." That's just classy, man.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. That's
Sure.
That's classy. And it brings that whole, like you say, that fellowship, that brotherhood, full circle.
Yeah.
So
I think it's important.
shout out to those people. And it's not just the musicians again.
No.
There's so much more. There's the bar
scenes.
owners. There's people like Marie that organize it. There's all the people working pieces that are running the sound and moving the gear. And it's not just the musicians.
Right.
It's the same familiar faces that are diehard to hear you sing that one song or play that one song, and you're like, "Oh my God, no! I've sang that same song here for the last 6 weeks. No, you got to play that."
Right.
So as long as it's not, Stairway to Heaven or
Right.
Freebird, yeah. But it's just such a good time, and it. But yeah, you make friends with that. So there's my advice this week to people listening: get out, find a local open mic night in your town, in your city, and
go
take
check
a drive. Check it out. If you don't play, sit and listen.
So what? Yeah.
If you do play, they don't care. There's a guy that sits there and he'll play spoons, man.
Yeah.
Right. They'll play a washboard. They don't care. You're contributing.
Yep.
Have fun with it. That's all that's about.
Have fun.
That's what music's about. It's having fun.
Having fun.
And keeping your heart into it. Yeah. So, so you played in so many different types of bands. Is there any one venue you've played? I'm stealing your question.
That's okay.
Is there any one venue you've played in your whole entire career that you're like, "Holy shit, here, look where I'm at. I can't believe I'm playing this room."
The Landmark Theater in Syracuse.
Okay.
Wow.
Is the most opulent place I've ever played, and that is a true privilege to play in that room. So I was an art major in school, so I understand the French Rococo art of what's going on in that place, and it's a true gem of the city. Syracuse has great architecture,
Right.
some true gems, and
Yes.
that's definitely one of them. In fact, when I was at the Landmark, it was for the Beetlejuice event.
Yeah.
I was on that
Okay.
event through Paul Davy and all that. And Denny Lane was the main marquee on the show. And so I was just sitting there looking up at the art, appreciating it, just going, wow, I want to go to France again.
Right.
And thinking like that. And next to me, somebody goes, "This is an incredible theater. I can't believe how nice this is. This is probably the nicest theater I've ever played in a British accent." So I turned to my left, and it was Denny Lane.
Oh, wow.
He felt the same way. And so, that's exactly what I was doing. Anyway, I had just made friends with him getting a ham sandwich in the green room about 40 minutes before that. It's kind of fun. I made friends with a sort of beetle over a ham sandwich.
Right.
Sort of. That
Sort of
sounds like
beetle.
a song.
Ah, sort
So,
of beetle.
Anyway,
I'm friends with a sort of beetle.
Yep.
so aside from that, the Belly Up Tavern in San Diego is otherwise my favorite room to play.
Mm-hmm.
Just love the
Okay.
room. It has a lot of history. It's cool when you get in there. The sound staff has always just knocked me out. I can't believe how good it sounds on that stage, to play on that stage. It's never been equaled. And anyway, it's just a blast to go. Whenever I'm on the West Coast, I try to catch something up there and play that room. That one's always stuck out. Back in the day, there was a room called the Bacchanal, great name for a rock and roll club. And I used to play a lot of showcases there.
Mm-hmm.
Little River Band and Guess Who, Dave Mason, Hoodoo Gurus,
Yeah.
Dada, bunch of groups like that.
Have you had the opportunity to play in any of the places that you saw your father play in as a kid?
As a matter of fact, yes. Back in the day, it was called the Hanalei Hotel. So when this goes back to that prior story. So when I was 3, I moved here to Syracuse from San Jose, California. And that's where I'm originally from. And then so by the time I was 6, I was old enough to go. So in the 60s, imagine this, they put a little gray suit on me. My mom sticks me on a plane, tells my dad that he's going to have a gray suit with a red tie. I get on the airplane by myself, fly to Chicago by myself. The stewardess, which is what they called them back in the day, helped me to my next flight, got me on that flight, buckled me in, and then the stewardess in San Diego pulled me out and took me to where, my dad could be at the gate. You could still come up to the gate back in that day. So that's how I did that. And so one of the places he took me was the Hanalei Hotel, and it had like a river in the hotel. So San Diego built this section of the city called Hotel Circle, and it was to rival Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So by putting that component in the city, it would draw and grow the city, because at the time it was still kind of a medium city. Anyway, that worked. And so they just had all these great fancy hotels with pools in the Southern Cali palm tree lifestyle, and then the great jazz clubs and so on. So I went to the Hanalei Hotel. We had dinner, and we had dinner next to a stream. It looked like Hawaiian stuff. There were ferns inside. I'd never seen anything like this before.
Right.
And then over in the room, in the jazz room, that was one of my first impressions of what it's like to go see Dad play music and what live music was. And I mean, everybody, aside from everybody, smoked like crazy. Everybody was looking good and smelling good, and women were like, even as a 6-year-old, I was like, wow, like all these ladies look like movie stars. Why can't I be older? Anyway, and I'm 6. So what are they doing? Like, oh, you're so cute. They were all over me. And I'm like, oh, I know what this thing is for. All right. So anyway, so that was that. And it was great. It was glamorous, and it was just wonderful. So years later, my group, the Grams in San Diego, we played that room. It was under a different name at that point. The handlery has it now. But the room is the same, and the hotel is muchly the same. New carpets and stuff, but same palm trees and
maybe a couple of the same women there.
Yeah, but who knows?
You never know.
Hey, honey, you're on. I remember you here when you were 6.
Yeah.
You had the gray suit with the red tie.
It's the guy with the gray tie. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, that was me. So anyway, that and the Hotel Del, and there was another place up closer to downtown I went that was really cool. So yeah. Anyway, those are my favorite places that come to mind right off the bat, Otherwise, it's the culture of things I like, so the Maplewood culture, I loved it. It's not really like a music room like the Roxy or something like that, right? But we turned it into a room that was a lot like that, it had a great vibe and had a great culture.
Yeah.
So you can like a room for that reason too. And for the same reason, there was a place called the Coaster Saloon right on the beach in San Diego that was like that, where that was another scene that reminds me very much of the Maplewood thing. It was the same kind of a fellowship.
Right.
Out of that came a lot of people, including some people that you've heard of at national level.
Right. It's pretty cool when you even if you're around that kind of camaraderie. because I'm starting to notice, even on the national level,
Yeah.
the more and more people we interview leads to more and more friendships that are formed. It's no different than all the musicians hanging out at the Maplewood.
Right.
When you're in LA and they're collaborating, and you've got this one that played with Ozzy talking to this one that played with the Guess Who,
right?
And you're going, it's like the same culture. It's just everybody's interwoven. It's I don't want to say incestuous because it sounds bad, but it
does.
But it's just, you're a community of musicians. It doesn't matter if you're an A level or a C level.
Right.
It's everybody coming together and putting just things. It's,
I'm going to announce it later, but funny you should say. I mean, I'm doing a project that's coming up. Like almost now is when I'm beginning it. That includes a couple of those names that I've met. Two of them I met through NAMM. Both are, I'm like blown away that I get to do it. And then a couple other guys that I know through other circles from other things, and I'm gonna do a project like that. And I'm delighted because I'm not at their level.
right.
It's funny though, like, I'm not saying I'm there, but like, by now, when you've played your whole life, you can play with those guys, at least to some degree, right? And so everybody knows it. Everybody's cool like that. And so, like, by knowing them through other channels at NAMM, namely through the magazines that I worked with and things like that, at that level, you get to know each other in a safer way, and then you can introduce your music in that way as well. And to me, it's amazingly how cool they all are, including Latham. And just like, I don't want to sit here and drop names, but like, everybody's so cool, and to me, that's the best part of the rock star thing, is that I define cool not by the sunglasses and the leather and all that horse shit. I define it by how nice you are, actually.
Yeah, right.
Or how kind, and so fortunately, I just know a lot of nice people is the way I look at it. And fortunately, in my own path, I'm going to get to, like, try playing a little bit with those guys a little bit. So
cool.
That's fun. It's fun how that sort of thing works out.
Well, we've had a taste of it even here locally when guys like Ben Morrow come to town.
Yep.
And Ben's had such a great ride in his career with Lionel Richie and Cher and his own
Don
band.
Felder and
and then when he comes to town and he calls and says, "Hey, I'm coming to town. I want you to get up and sing some songs. I want you to do backup for me all night."
Yep.
You and Rick Chisholm. And I'm like, me and Rick Chisholm. I mean,
I know
Rick's here. I'm here. He's like, no, you guys, and then you meet Rick, and Rick's the nicest freaking guy in the world.
Just do it.
Yeah. And so we did it. And now every time he comes, we play together. And then I just hooked him up. He's doing some corporate gigs with Totora out in Vegas, and it's just that networking. And, and you realize you're not away from their level. Their level is just cool people that can play. And if you are a like-minded person that is just there to entertain and be a personable soul, then you are at their level.
Agreed.
I've learned that. I was amazed just how easy it is to be overwhelmed by how people are so cool. Guys like Rudy Sarzo, not dropping a name, he's on the show. We're thinking, oh my God, this guy's Quiet Riot. He played with Ozzy's,
White Snake, and everything.
And then he
else,
gets on and he's telling the heartfelt story about an immigrant, and his parents fled Cuba when Castro took over, and they lived on a street where nobody only spoke Spanish, so they didn't leave. Just a little thing. You're like, just a normal story. It's such a freaking down to earth guy.
Yep.
All of that other shit, like you said, it's just the sunglasses, the leathers, and all the all fades away.
And that's the showbiz part. Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes our own heart, we don't feel that we should. It's like you almost idolize a person, or you just love what they do so much that you forget they're just human.
Yeah.
And then when they start,
Well, we all project a lot onto our celebrities and rock stars and the
Yeah.
people we're enamored with, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've met enough people to know that, like, what I thought this person might be like, if I thought about it, is not actually the person that I met.
Mhm.
You know,
Okay.
they're generally, most often, a lot nicer.
Yeah.
There's only one person I met who was not nice, and I was surprised by that. But everybody else that I've ever met, you know, in the music business that's at a level higher than me, was always gracious is the word.
Mhm.
And so and with humility,
Mhm,
like really, and like, and that taught me, it's like, wow, if you were you and everybody in the world knows who you are, and that person and this is how you are with me, and nobody in the world knows who I am once you get past the California mountains just to the east of San Diego, then 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 I should be more like what you're doing here, because I believe that's part of the equation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like the Stones have this bad reputation, right?
Mhm.
Bullshit, man. These guys are successful, savvy businessmen.
Mhm.
You know, they know when to get their drink on and stuff like that. But really, you know that at a certain point, that sex, drugs, rock and roll part thing just had to be kind of like an image to maintain,
Sure.
to keep the audience salivating for more, you know. And so I think that's how it is with all those people. They have those personas so that they can kind of have that for the stage, and when they go home, they can just go home and be dad, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
mom, or, you know, and just do that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know what that part is like, but but what I do know is that in most every occasion where I got to meet somebody who's in my record collection, I felt that they just wanted a few minutes of just to be ordinary for a minute, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
because they are tired of the high level BS, you know, and they just wanted to talk about normal people stuff. And that's what was cool about it, you know. So
Chuck, when we have guests on that have come to our come to the forefront where we've even wanted to reach out to see if they could be on the show, they always say the same thing afterwards. They're like, didn't think that was going to be as much fun as it was.
Right.
Because we don't go by your typical bullshit questions. Yeah, we touch upon
A
your
little
history.
bit here and there. Yeah.
But, you know, there's a question I'm going to ask you in a second. But when you start asking them, what's the dumbest thing that's ever happened to you on stage?
Yeah.
And they can just let their hair down and just have fun
Tell
with
you.
it. You know,
Yeah.
and you got
We get all
Joey
sorts of
Allen,
stuff,
and we've
you
mentioned
know.
Joey Allen 10 times, you know, talking
We
about,
have.
you know, having an accident in his spandex
Yeah.
in front of, you know, thousands
front
of
of
people,
thousands of people.
or a local musician who's playing in Germany and
Mhm.
projectile vomits on a because he had warm beer. I mean, just dumb shit. But you're not gonna see that written in tabloids, or you're not
No.
going to hear about it on Blabbermouth unless they puke on a politician or something.
Exactly.
You know.
I ask the question sometimes in my column.
Well, see, that's
You know.
and that's why I think you and I, when we
Yeah.
talked earlier, we are cut from the same cloth. Where we want to know who you are. I don't
Yes.
care what you've done. I don't care if you've played for the Queen.
Yeah.
You know, if you
Well,
are a
thanks.
Queen,
Right.
this is people. You know, so that's our main thing. So I'm going to ask you, what's the most frogged up thing that's ever happened on stage for you? You've played a lot of shows.
I've played a lot of shows. I think, like, you know, I don't know. I mean, nothing ever really happened too embarrassing that I can remember. Although I do remember, I mean, it wasn't embarrassing, but it was, I didn't see that coming. We were playing a 3rd of July show. The place was packed. Everybody it was Monday night, so everybody's like, it had a little extra juice on the energy for the evening because everybody was going to be off on Tuesday for 4th of July.
Right.
And this gig is like half a block from like a true Southern California surfing Beach Boys beach. So this is fun, and everybody's looking pretty beachy. Anyway, this one girl got pretty freaking drunk, and I could hear her all the way across the room through a sea of people, loud, rocking, dancing people. And I was in a loud band. Like, our guitar player was always way too loud. And I remember the drummer actually saying, I think Pete's feeding back. Pete's feeding back. And I looked at him. That's not him. And he says, that's not me. And we realized it's that chick back there on the stool, way back there at the bar, standing on a stool with a couple of beer bottles going, yeah, 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 yeah. It was a shriek, and it was awful, and I didn't like it. Anyway, so I turn around, and I go rock out with my buddies for a while Pete continues with his loud solo, whatever. And, all of that. And I turn around after a while to approach the microphone again because we brought it down, and I'm going to talk shit to the audience. And, because it was crowded. They were right up to us, and, one of those great nights. And everybody was kind of won. So I was going to get them going. And I turned around, and that girl was at the microphone with her 2 Coronas getting ready, trying to figure out how to get the microphone so she could go, yeah, 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 into the microphone. And I'm like, no way.
Right.
And so all I did was just take about 2 steps, put the heel of my foot right under that bone under her butt, and just launched her out into the audience to where,
That's
crowd
awesome.
surfing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like that. They caught her. I don't think she spilled a drop of her beer. And
That's professionalism right there.
And I was just like, you're not doing that. So that to me is a memory that I remember a lot.
That's awesome.
Because I was like, wow, I can't believe that. In college, I played a gig naked.
Okay.
I just put the guitar down about that far. So those are, that's back when I was a younger man.
You could have got away with that playing ukulele.
I could have.
It was pretty punk.
You're right.
Sort of like punk thing. Yeah, ukulele.
No,
He was the red hot Schiele peppers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'd have that smaller Hawaiian one.
Smaller than
Nice.
you. That's
Smaller than
just a lele.
just a lele.
Just a lele.
That's all I need.
You couldn't even get a yuka out of that.
No.
Oh Jesus.
That's not the night to play My Dog Has Fleas either.
Well,
Anyway, I did that one time, and that was that. It was, we were young and stupid and trying everything in sight, if you know what I mean. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
And but it was like a punk night, so like everybody went for it. They couldn't believe I had the balls to do it, so to speak. And I got it about 4 songs into it, and I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And it's like, but we kept going, and it was great. It was like one of those showcase sets, and that was that. And it actually worked, but I never did that again.
He gave a whole new meaning to drop D.
Ah.
Yeah.
We're playing in drop
Hey,
D.
that's good.
Tonight,
Good. If I
tonight
ever
we're playing
bring it
drop
back.
D.
We're playing drop D
Yep,
all night.
tonight.
Drop D.
Every song, drop D.
That's right.
Doesn't matter.
He's going to play that song he wrote for that girl when he was in 5th grade.
Yes.
You broke my heart like you broke my crayons. Yeah.
Yep.
So you
Anyway,
you've had
yeah, that's about it. Otherwise,
That's
I
cool,
was
man.
also just nothing too crazy,
No, that's
I've always been more about the music, I like it to be an artful show or some interesting and have some sort of cinematic quality to it. But I'm not the guy who barfs on stage and
Right.
Stuff like that, and don't do anything too crazy, so otherwise the only other embarrassing things would be audience people doing stuff.
we've seen some
So-
crazy
Yeah.
things.
yeah.
How about that gig we played up north that the person just got up and jumped up on stage and was persistent on sitting on our drummer's lap while he played?
Oh my God.
I'm not going to mention
That
the
was at
drummer.
that was at that old
Yes,
bank.
yes. So we're not even going to say
Yeah,
anything
no.
about it, but yeah.
No.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that was a fun.
That
Some
was
things
fun.
stay at the gig.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, we're not going to say who,
Yeah.
where, what, why, but it was pretty funny. But
it was.
and he was like, "No,
No, not happening.
I want to sit here."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Well, she did
And she did.
2 songs.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, should have kept her as a drummer.
Oh no.
So you've played the music, you've written for these magazines, and
Yeah.
was it destiny, or was it just that being a musician, you said, I can tell this story?
Well, I always knew I could tell the story. That was never an issue, or I never had a problem with that. I was like, okay, we need a story. What it meant to me was like, I believe, kind of comes from John Kennedy saying, don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Yep.
And that has a profound effect on me. And I also read a thing from Ben Franklin about a successful business needs 5 things, little R&D, good accounting, yada, yada. The 5th thing was like, you need to give back to your community if you want to thrive as a business in this
There you
community.
Go. Yep.
So one of my drummers, one day, his mom, he was thinking about moving out of the city, and she said to him, Danny, just bloom in the garden in which you grow. And when I heard that, that was the day I started to have a community involvement, and I had emotion that way. So I started to promote shows and festivals and get involved with the community and write and produce shows, or just anything I could to help the garden, because if you take care of the garden that you bloom in, you will be in a better garden.
Yes.
And
sometimes you don't need to leave that garden to be completely satisfied.
Correct.
Right. I like where I'm at. I like to hit the road, but I like it that I can come back and I don't have to go on the road all the time to get my yayas out, you know? And so that's why I am involved with nurturing, talent that I feel affinity for. I help Mira Grimm with things. If you know who she is, she's young and up and coming. She'll go far, and other people.
Yeah.
And then I like the magazine so that I can get to know the people in the city who are in my world.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be around poets and musicians and thinkers and stuff. And so I meet them, but at the same time, I can also, this is a way of nurturing my garden.
Yeah.
And so like these people, and the way I do the articles is not about me. Like, I leave my writer's ego out of it. I can write you stories all day long. I'm a creative person, but I just kind of actually remove myself and become a mediator that facilitates an interview so that the artist can speak in their own words. Because if I'm a music lover, I don't want to hear me interpret your story.
Right.
I want to hear the story straight from Paul McCartney or Alice
Yeah, yeah.
Cooper. I want to hear what he has to say. I don't want to hear what the reporter interprets it to be. So I do that. I let it be like that. I'll write a quick little intro to frame it and give it context. But for the most part, I think you're doing the same thing. You give a forum for a person, me, to become more accessible and so on. And so that's, I think, the other thing is if everybody, Mike, did half of what they expect everybody else or somebody else to do, what a great garden or scene this would be.
Yeah.
So that's what this ties back to what we were talking about, people who are in like levels up in the upper echelon, the true A-list, is that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're doing. And when they see somebody who's working hard, they'll give a brother a break and help him out.
Yeah.
So because it really does come to that. That's the other thing that, anybody who lasts this long is you have, a passion that you can't really do anything about.
Mhm.
And it's not really so much as a passion. Like for me, I just wake up and I start making things. I just like, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then there's the hard work and the devotion to that work,
Yeah.
being prepared. So
We find that the artists that have been on our show
Mm-hmm.
don't. We've had two types of artists. We've had artists that have said to us, until you hit
Yeah.
40,000 subscribers, or you've had 1 million views, or you've had this or that, I don't want to be on your show.
Right.
Or we've have other guys that say, I don't care if you have 2 views.
Right.
I think
You're
what
right.
you're doing is great. And when they get done, they want to be back.
Mm-hmm.
So we've really been blessed with
Extremely.
some really incredible
extremely.
people. I've mentioned it before, but it doesn't matter where you're from.
No.
Doesn't matter if you're the musician, the producer, the sound guy, the guy that's climbing the scaffoldings.
Correct.
There's so many different facets of this business that you can be involved. You can help somebody like Chuck put a show together. You can
Right.
help pass flyers out. You can facilitate signing people up on a sign-up sheet for open mic night. But as
Yep.
long as you're all part of the same community, it doesn't matter who's picking the fruit or who's throwing the fertilizer on it.
Correct.
You're all in it
I
together.
agree.
You know?
Yep.
And
I agree.
and that's why we do what we do. I mean, this isn't, and everybody knows this isn't our living.
No.
This podcast
No.
is not a living. It's we do this out of the kindness of our heart.
Mm-hmm.
And we hope that if we get 5 more people to say, hey, no shit, I've seen Chuck's name out there a couple times.
Right.
He seemed like a really cool dude. I'm going to go see his show. I'm going to go see the
Please do.
performers. You know, that's what we want.
That's
you
what we
to
want.
do. We want to open the eyes to our backyard.
Yes. Because there's so many talented people in our backyard
Yeah.
that they need
That's
a light.
true.
They need a light shown on them.
Yeah. Well,
And Chuck is one of those people.
yeah. You know, and any of those guys down there, I'll tell you. You know,
Yeah.
We've mentioned their names tonight, but like
Yeah, we have.
Richie.
Yeah.
Richie Melito, what class act, great
Oh,
musician.
there's a lot of
He's got a heart
lot
this
of
big.
wonderful people here.
Yeah.
You know, you have people like Jeff Stockham is in this city now. That guy's a real deal jazz guy that's representing jazz correctly, and that guy, I can't say enough about that. When I found out he was in the city, I was like, wow, there's a real musician, you know. And Chris Eves is here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole army of guitar outlaws, you know, just downright badasses everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a
You're
great
right.
musical city. A lot of great people here.
Well, we've always been proud of it. I mean, even in the '80s when cover tunes weren't big, but it was all a lot of originals, as Jeff was hinting toward.
Yeah.
You couldn't go 10 feet without bumping into somebody that just, you know, we had a lot of great
We did.
musicians come out of this area and are still here, or are proud to say that they've been here.
Yes.
So that's why we're proud to do what we're doing. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too.
I'm glad you're here.
Toot our
I'm
horn.
glad you're here.
Thank you. We appreciate
Thank
you.
Yes.
You know, plug what you've got coming up if you could. And I'll tell you, you know, before you even realize it, you know, we've gone our hour and a little bit more, and we want to have you back. I'd love to hear more stories about what you've done and what you've got coming up. And anytime you have something to promote, I want you to reach out to
Okay.
us.
Yes.
Well, here comes
please.
summer, so there'll be a lot to that, and I'll be hitting the road, so there will be that, and then we'll be continuing with events every now and then. So I'd love
Cool.
to come back. I really appreciate you guys hanging out. It was pretty good.
Absolutely.
Pretty fun.
Yes.
So,
Chuck, we're gonna get you out of here on this one.
Oh,
You know,
I like this. Is the one that
I like this one. Now.
this one could
I
bring
really
a tear
do.
to a man's eye.
It could.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, Chuck, when it becomes your time, what do you want your legacy to be?
that I was a good songwriter and a good musician. Really, just a good artist. I mean, that's what I am. So
Yeah.
I hope I'm good at it. I'm very simple that way. I mean, we all can be complicated. We all have that it's complicated factor in our life. But really, at the very simplest thing, what I'm trying to attempt is just be the best version of me and what I am as an artist, you know. And
Mhm.
so I am equally visual as I am musical, so I hope that I leave a song in the public consciousness that somebody values or resonates with in a positive way, and you know, moves in a forward positive motion. That's it. That's
There
my
you
goal
go.
in life.
Chuck, if we could be blessed with a couple more people like you in this area, it'd make the world a better place. So
Agreed.
we appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
That's a very kind thing to say. So, right back at you. Thank you very much. What
Thank
you're
you.
doing, you're helping the garden go.
Yeah. Well, if not, we're
So-
spreading a lot of manure.
Yeah, we are.
We may not have the seeds,
Part
Right.
of the process, baby.
but you know,
that's why we
there's
give our
three
boots.
things you need for gardening. You got to have the
Yes.
seeds. You need some good manure, and you definitely need a good hoe.
Yes.
And
I knew you were.
I know it was the childish thing to say, but it was a joke that had to be said. I know I'm going to hear crap about this by somebody.
That's okay.
So immature.
I don't care.
but Don't forget
All
that
right.
that song that's been out there forever.
Correct.
You broke my heart like you broke my
my
crayons. That was the first song that Chuck ever wrote.
Yes.
In 5th grade.
Yep.
To that girl.
Yeah.
He's going to write that song
He is
down.
too.
He is. He's going to dedicate it to the good.
The band
and the ugly.
ugly.
Anyways, Chuck, don't
Chuck,
go
thanks,
anywhere. We're going to roll our outro here, and then we're going to come back and talk to you for a quick, brief second. So
Cool.
give us a second.
Thanks.
Stay right there.
Music.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah, you've been listening to The Good,
The band.
The Ugly. I'm Big Papa.
And I'm Jeff.
And Jeff, we want to thank our sponsors, but first we want to thank Chuck Schiele today for
Yes, we do.
spending some quality time, and hopefully Chuck will be back and tell us more wonderful stories.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Thanking our sponsors today: Print Shop Underground, Black Heart Tattoo.
Hogwash.
I almost forget it. Don't forget Ultimate Ears,
No. Don't forget Ultimate Ears.
because you can hear your own tears
With Ultimate Ears.
with Ultimate Ears. And if anybody wants some Ultimate Ears, give
Contact
us a
Mike.
call, because we're here to help.
Yes.
Yeah, it's nothing about the commission.
No.
No.
No. Never is.
All right. Hey, we always say it. We're going to say it again.
Be kind to each other.
Don't be a dick. Peace, everybody. Don't say it, Jeff.
What?
Don't say it.
Recording stopped.
Recording stopped.
I
Such
did.
a dick.
I know.